Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you Herr Robert versus Bumbleepotato in round 3 lower bracket of the 5th Asia Pacific tournament. So today we're going to be moving on with the lower bracket round 3, since the players who advanced from lower bracket round 2 are now playing against each other. So on the Allied side today, we have Herr Robert playing the 1st Pancerna versus Bumblebee, who's using the 17th SS-Panzergrenadiers, and this is Colleville. So this is an interesting matchup for sure. It's quite an old school matchup, both of the divisions being in the game since the vanilla release. So there's quite a lot to talk about, but I think just in general going into this that Herr Robert will have the advantage with his 1st Pancerna. The main reason being he does play the 1st Pancerna a lot, so that helps, but also just general things like Cromwell 6s being very good counters to the IG-18 Pak-38 combos. Also Hurricanes are fantastic for that, so Herr Robert can put on a lot of pressure early on in the game. And Bumblebee will struggle to sort of counteract that unless his Stug can really pop off in the early game. His 3-star Stug will have to come in and try and deal with the armour that Herr Robert presents against him. And that Stug can do very well. It can kill Cromwell 5s easy, it can kill Cromwell 6s easy if it gets in range, and it can also fight off AT guns at range because of its high veterancy. Due to the fact it does direct hit quite often, AT guns will have to hit, their 1st or 2nd shot, and I believe the veterancy on the 1st Pancerna is lacking. Especially if Herr Robert doesn't invest in command for those AT guns. Also, what I'm interested to see is whether Herr Robert goes for a concentrated push or more balanced push. He is quite aggressive in his play. He likes to sort of leave skeleton forces elsewhere, whilst he makes a controlled large push on one side of the map. Now on the side of Bumblebee, he certainly knows what he's doing as well, and coming into this game with the 17th SS, I would say the main way that he's going to win is probably through his artillery, maybe through the Ju-87Gs as well, if he can maintain air control in the later game. If he gets some AA on the field, he can stop the Hurricanes, then he can bring in his own aircraft, and if Herr Robert then neglects his own AA, he may lose some of his armour to the Ju-87s. So that could be an avenue that Bumblebee could use. Otherwise, it's more just trading very well with things like Stosstroop, keeping them hidden, Panzerschreck, stuff like that, making sure that they find really nice kills onto strong armour, and then using that as a sort of push off into Phase B, where he gets quite a large amount of income, can start supporting Stugs. Yes, there will be Fireflies on the side of Herr Robert, but there's only one until Phase C, and that's something that Bumblebee might be able to exploit. So let's have a look at some of the units coming out. For the mid here, we do see 3 units of Stosstroop and a Pak-40, and there's going to be some recon at the front. Some Stosstroop further down with a Pak-38 and the command. There's also an AA piece at the start. That is going to be a Flak 36. I really like that actually. Really smart move from Bumblebee. Stops those Hurricanes from being so annoying early on, and might even stop this recon from the Ulster. On the bottom side it's going to be a 2-2-1 with the AP shells. On the bottom side here, 2 more units of Stosstroop, command, and a Panzerschreck. So a lot of Stosstroop invested upon by Bumblebee. Flak 36 has been unloaded, will force back the Ulster. I wonder what that actually spotted though. Probably not too much in terms of exact units, but Herr Robert might be able to identify them the same way that I do, in sort of looking at the units or the transports that come in and identifying what units are there because of that. Now it seems like Herr Robert's gone for quite a concentrated mid push here. He's got a couple of Stralsy. Further back he's got the Stuart 5 and a couple units there as well. The Hurricane Mark IV is going to come in and pin down the Pak-40, which may allow the Cromwell 6 to just go for a direct engagement, which would be nice. But yeah, 2 Stralsy on the top, 3 Stralsy in the mid, 1 further down. There's 2 Stralsy with this Stuart 5. There's a Dragoni on the bottom side and another Stralsy squad. So a concentrated mid push for sure, with the Stuart and the Cromwell 6 turning up there. Fire position is coming down from this Cromwell 6. He's going to be using that to his advantage to try and keep this Pack 40 pinned down and prevent it from coming back at him. And we can see that the 221 is trying to sneak around on the bottom side here. Stosstroop are going to bump into Stralsy, and this is a nasty matchup for Stralsy. Just because the 18HE versus the 5HE of the Stralsy is just like so far in favour of the Stosstroop, they can rip them to shreds. Nice kill there from the Pack 38, does clean up one of the Stralsy squads. But that's going to reveal its location, which is not ideal for this Cromwell 6. And this Cromwell 6 has got line of sight onto this Flak 36, and that is not good at all for Bumblebee. He's going to want to pull that back behind the tree line sooner than later, because otherwise these Hurricane Mark IVs are going to basically run all over him. 2 more AA pieces are on the way. I believe those will be more Flak 36s for this top side. They are indeed. And honestly, being forced to invest in all of this AA early on could put Bumblebee at quite a disadvantage versus the armor that Herr Robert is presenting. So, yeah, this is really interesting. We got 3 Flak 36s. I believe that's more expensive overall than 2 Hurricanes. So, you got to consider that when trying to counter these aircraft. Do you spend those points in order to stop them being effective, especially considering they're so versatile in that they can hit multiple spots on the map, or do you just, you know, let them go to work? In this case, it's a 1-star Pack 40 now, so Bumblebee should be pretty happy with that, since that's obviously way overpowered now. But the Cromwell 6 is going to take out the Flak 36. Stosstroop go down, and so did the SBW 221. So that armoured car is dealt with, and so is the infantry. But on the bottom side, some room being made for Bumblebee, so things sticking at the 50-50 for the time being, even with Herr Robert pushing a small salient in the mid. Now this Pack 38 could be an issue, but I think if Herr Robert's smart about it, he could definitely spot it with some infantry here, if he brings up some recon maybe, and then he can, say, come up to here, and then fire position just to the right side of the Pack 38. You don't always have to rely on range. You can also rely on just like line of sight in general. So generally I say like fire short of a 1,200 meter range engagement. But in this case you can literally just fire to the right or left of it based on how the... So you stay out of line of sight, but you put the shots next to it. It's a very smart way to use fire position. In this case, the Cromwell 6 kind of neglects the fact that the Pack 38 is there. The Herr Robert definitely saw that, since the Stralsys did die to it previously. But the Panzergrenadier are going to come in there with a grenade, stop that from being spotted. Now in the meantime, the Cromwell 6 did kill off the flak filling on the top side, so a second AA piece gone down. And considering how expensive those AA pieces are in Phase A, it is leaving Bumblebee in a pretty tough position. Maybe he had those too far up, or just not defended enough to utilise them properly. But the Stug is arriving here, and there is no Cromwell 5 just yet. It is coming up the road, but this Stug 3 may be able to take advantage of the Stuart 5 and Cromwell 6 whilst they are unsupported. There's also no AT gun in sight. The Ulster is going to be reconning this flank. That's just going to be hanging about down there. It seems like Herr Robert often brings these in and doesn't micro them, because you can see that's just flying around in a circle here, which is not really ideal. Either way, in the centre here, Cromwell 6 is going to be firing at the Stug 3. The Stuart goes down. Now the Cromwell 5 getting involved. Can the Stug 3 kill off another one of these Cromwells and cause them to fall back? Last shot? No, not going to do the job. So the Cromwell 5 and Cromwell 6 will come out on top in this engagement, and that's going to be forced to fall back. IG-18 is coming into the fray, going to get involved. Will be a good unit to take on the Stralsy, but with a Cromwell 6 in play, and now the Stug 3 falling back, that IG is quite exposed. Now the Stosstroop did die on this bottom side. Looks like the Stralsy paid for that though in blood. Streltsy have found the Pak-38 down here, come under fire from the speed troop in the meantime. Hurricane comes in with a strafing run onto the IG-18, and the Flak-36 is now being hit as well. So that's going to be a third AA going down if Bumblebee is not too careful, and the Hurricane's going to be trying to pin that itself so that it can continue to strafe other units. So Bumblebee is leaving himself in a tough spot right now. I can see why he brought in AA earlier. It's very smart to do so because you're playing against the 1st Pancerna, you're playing against Herr Robert, and you know he loves these Hurricanes. But allowing those AA pieces to die is the worst thing you can do because you've invested over 200 points in AA now, and they are pretty much all dead, or at least neutralized for the time being, which allows these Hurricanes to then become a superior advantage, more so than they were before. Now, a Nebelwerfer 41 has been brought in, and that may be a nice way for Bumblebee to take advantage of both the Cromwell 6 and the Cromwell 5. So we'll have to wait and see how this Nebelwerfer does. It looks like Bumblebee is getting his Stoke 3 into position to make this happen, but this Nebelwerfer really has to hit the mark, otherwise he could be in trouble. And while the Hurricane Mark 4s have spotted it due to the recon, and it's going to be pinned and damaged, and 3 men go down in that Nebelwerfer. Oh, that's not good. That Flak 36 has a lot of work to do here. Got to force back these Hurricanes, otherwise the Nebelwerfer will likely be strafed to death. Oh, Cromwell 6 as well. Sniping the Starstrup in 2 hits isn't very nice. Just seems like every engagement at the moment is going in favour of Herr Robert, other than the Pak-38, but even that didn't manage to kill the Cromwell 6, so leaves Bumblebee in a very tough spot. And while the Flak 36 didn't do the job in time, so the Nebelwerfer 41 is going to die, and he loses that opportunity to take on this armor, which is holding quite a lot of ground in the center of the map at the moment and causing a lot of issues. Now there's going to be an AT gun coming up to the mid as well, which would push an engagement in favor of Herr Robert even more so. So I like the addition of that from Herr Robert. Might be worth bringing in something to this bottom side though, or trying to probe with this M5 half track. That could be smart, because generally if somebody isn't pushing against you and you do have salience, then you can probably take more ground. Now in this case, the Streltsy here, they are going to find the Panzergrenadier and likely die. Dragoni though and the M5 half track are going to be able to come up and clean that Panzergrenadier out, and then the M5 half track may be able to advance there since it's now on an attack move order. Hurricane Mark 4 comes in and finishes the job anyway. So it's looking from bad to worse at the moment for Bumblebee. Like, I saw what he was trying to do, right? He's trying to neutralize the air force of the 1st Pancerna in Phase A, but it hasn't worked. So now he's left himself at about a 300 point deficit in general, and that's a really, really bad place to be, especially this early into the game. Now we have moved into Phase B, so his income is going to increase quite significantly, but with his Panzerschreck there missing onto the M5 half track, that's not very fun at all. But there's nothing really going to be stopping that from firing again a second time, and nice micro there from Bumblebee to make that happen. Gets rid of that armoured support so that the infantry can go ahead and clean up the Dragoni. Now if the Starstrup manage to get some smoke down, engage the Dragoni at 100 meter range, they should win quite convincingly. Panzergren's trying to keep Streltsy pinned in the open. There is an IG-18 coming into the bottom side. That could be enough actually to just stop the Streltsy and Dragoni here, especially now that the M5 half track is dead. He might be able to use that as a springboard to push off of, which would be really quite nice to just gain back some ground on the bottom side for the time being. But this Sherman 5, if it came down there, could be an issue, but it is not. It's going to the center. So Herr Robert just, I think, amassing his forces here, going to go for a concentrated push down the mid, which is a good thing. Keeping your forces concentrated is always very nice, makes them more effective than they usually are. But whether or not the mid is the correct choice remains to be seen. Now that he's got a 6-pounder in position though, his engagement with the Stug 3 will definitely fall in his favour, and the Stug 3 might reveal itself to the 6-pounder, and since that's a 2-star 6-pounder, that could be a very deadly engagement. Ideally, I guess you want recon at this point, but there is recon here and here, but I don't think it can see the the 6-pounder, not until it fired just now. Unfortunately, the Stug 3 did find cover behind the building after it took a shot there into the tracks. But that has left it immobile. And since it's a Stug, which is self-propelled, that's going to not be very good for an engagement versus a Cromwell 5 or even a Sherman at close range. Or even at long range for that matter. More Flak 36s are on their way. I believe Bumblebee is just preparing for more Hurricanes to come his way. Panzergrenadiers have joined the battle on the bottom side. Sturm Pioneers are going to be coming in as well. Seems like a really strong infantry engagement here actually from Bumblebee. But with the Hurricanes getting involved, maybe not so much. Well, the Sturm Pioneers do just about clean up the Streltsy before they get pinned, so they're not going to get surrendered. Stoss Troop is going to be engaging the Streltsy here at closer range than they were before, so that's just going to be... oh, look how quickly those guys melt. Poor Poles. So the infantry engagement is strong, and Bumblebee is managing this bottom side well. He's bringing in just enough to give him an advantage down here, and he's keeping it almost close to 50-50. Although the point's still ticking in Herr Robert's favour for the time being. Maybe this little salient here will change that. Nebelwerfer 42 has arrived. That is going to be trying to hit these vehicles and the 6-pounder, I assume. But the Cromwell 5 is already backing off, and there's a Sherman 5 in a completely different location now. So regardless of whether or not this Nebelwerfer does its job, I'm not sure that the Stug is going to be able to push onto that, since it will likely get flanked. Also, there is now off-map from the Sherman 5, but some really nice strikes so far from the Nebelwerfer 42. Takes out the 6-pounder, does indeed pin down all of these units. It's a shame that a rocket couldn't come and kill... Okay, well that works too. I was going to say that carrier, but it burns up in the flames anyway. That off-map takes out the Pak-38 on the bottom side. So both players now relying on artillery to make ground, but the Stug 3 can't really push off that. It's got track wheel damage, so it's going to be incredibly slow. The Flak 36 actually behind it does need supplying, and so does the Nebelwerfer. So this may be an excuse to bring in a supply truck here that can fill up your Nebelwerfer, give ammo to the Flak 36, and also fix your Stug in the same go. And that would be a good idea. So I expect to see a supply vehicle come in at some point. Sherman 5 is now engaging on this bottom side though, which kind of takes away the power of this IG-18. At this point, the IG-18 should fall back and then be put on return fire if it survives. Unfortunately not going to survive, and the off-map comes down on top of it nonetheless. Might even unwittingly kill the Panzerschreck. That is nasty. Oh, that's such a shame for Bumblebee. Just keeping that Panzerschreck a little bit close to his IG cost it his life, and I mean, you can't really account for that with the positioning. That was just really unlucky from Bumblebee, because now he's not going to have that longer range AT that's really useful for killing off half-tracks and other tanks that come to support infantry at close range. So yeah, that's really tough. Either way, it's still reliant on this Stug 3, and I think he should fix it up before he gets aggressive with it, because otherwise it's going to become a bit of a waste, especially since it's being hit now by a mortar and has already been half panicked already. Like, reversing that, getting supply in, that's the way to go right now. Now, it's not over for Bumblebee, like I mentioned. Towards the late game, if he does manage to control a lot of these Nebelwerfers, get the CAA into place, maybe sort of controls the air himself later on, there will be an opportunity for him to do very well. And I think with the Hurricanes that Herr Robert is using, he could definitely buy in an ME-109 and try and look for a kill here onto these Hurricanes as they come in for these strafing runs. Now in the middle, Sherman 5, 2-star Sherman 5 is going to be engaging the Stug 3. The Marder is going to be getting involved at the 1,200 meter range, but I think this Stug is in a terrible position. Yeah, the Cromwell 5 there, Sherman 5 engaging that, finding the kill. That is really, really bad. But there was no reason why that should be attack moving towards the enemy when it's not got a track wheel damage, because it just can't retreat quick enough if it needs to. Cromwell 5 does get banged by the Marder at max range, which is really nice kill. And the investment in these Marder 3s is really smart. since it definitely takes away a lot of the advantage that Herr Robert would have unless he buys in a Firefly. So you're kind of forcing him to buy in that. But the 17-pounder has arrived, and I guess that's another answer to this 1,200 meter range engagement. And well, the Marders won't last long against those, I can tell you that much. Since one shot there, you can see 2/3 of its suppression bar, and the second shot finding the kill nonetheless. Now the Marder 3 is engaging the Sherman 5 at close range. It's actually a Focke-Wulf 190 that's going to be coming out from Bumblebee. Wasn't entirely sure if it was MU-109s or Focke-Wulfs, but Focke-Wulfs in this case. And yeah, the Hurricanes, I think if Bumblebee micros this correctly, he could find 2 Hurricane kills here. Yeah, he's going to find 1, I think. Unless the AA from Herr Robert is there, which it is. There is a Bofors on the way. But it still may not be enough. 1 Hurricane definitely going to go down. Well, maybe not. Wow. I was convinced both of those Hurricanes were going to die. But apparently not. Bofors saves the day. And so does this Hurricane, forcing both of the Focke-Wulfs to fall back. That was honestly a chance that I think Bumblebee had, but maybe luck was just against him once again. That really sucks because, like I mentioned, in the late game, the Air Force could easily fall in favour of Bumblebee, and then Ju-87s could clean up a lot of the pressure that Herr Robert can put on the ground. This Marder 3, though, has to be very careful. He doesn't want to have that engaged by the Sherman at this range. Otherwise, it will be forced to fall back, and then it will just die. Flak 36, again, being in line of sight here, is not good at all. You can have this Flak 36 here, and it can still fire at aircraft to max range, whilst not being in line of sight of these Shermans. So that's just a positional mistake there from Bumblebee. On this bottom side, the infantry engagement has continued, and Bumblebee is slowly losing ground now since he's being overwhelmed. He's forced to put points in elsewhere. But with the Stug dead, with one of the Marder 3s dead, and this Marder 3 probably sure to follow, it's really, really looking ugly at the moment for Bumblebee. And again, not winning their air engagement really sucks, and losing an AA piece in the process is even worse. So that just kind of leaves him in a really, really tough spot. And there isn't really much coming back from this other than a good air engagement. So this Focke-Wulf has basically got to beat these 2 Hurricanes right now. And if it can do that, yes, there will be more Hurricanes, but they will always be outnumbered, hopefully, by the Focke-Wulf. And Bumblebee's playing this smart. He's getting over his AA. This Flak 36 has run out of ammunition, though. Oh dear, this could go wrong. Those Hurricanes can put on a lot of damage very quickly if you're not too careful. But both of them being forced to fall back, but so is Bumblebee. Yeah, Herr Robert has his AA in place. He can only kill these if they come over his own territory. He can't fight them over enemy territory at this point. And the Marder 3 and Pack 40 can work together here to kill the Sherman 5. Killing off that command is actually really good for Bumblebee, because it takes away the veterancy from the Sherman 5, which will then be less effective against the Marder 3. Driver wounded. Focke-Wulf 190 going to come in and help pin that down. That surely is going to be a kill, unless there's bounces all day long, which there could possibly be. But in the meantime, the Stosstroop have died here. The Panzergrenadiers are going to get surrendered, and there is a severe lack of infantry now on this bottom side. We're almost pushing a +2 for Herr Robert, and that may as well seal the deal for the rest of the game. The Aufklärer are going to be found there as well by the Sherman 5 as they get close. The Sturm Pioneers have been found down here. They might be able to kill off the Dragoni at close range, which would be quite nice. But yeah, an investment in more infantry at this point may be the way to go. You've got a Pack 40 and a Marder 3 that may be able to clean up some of the tanks, but who knows. Pack 40, I mean, the Sherman 5 did survive. It also got smoked off. Sturm Pioneers are going to be able to kill these Dragoni, I feel, but I'm not sure they're going to cut through the Streltsy, just because the Streltsy, they have too many men, basically. Oh, the air train is incoming. It's going for the Marder 3. That Marder 3 might even die from this. The 2 armor is often not enough. Oh, this Focke-Wulf's on the tail of one of them. That's going to be going down. Mustang, though, might be returning the kill. if the Flak 36s don't do the job. Oh no, they've stopped firing at the Mustang and they started firing at the Hurricane instead. Focke-Wulf down. There is going to be, I think, this Hurricane going down unless the Focke-Wulf decides to come down to these Mustang Mark III instead. I'm not sure Bumblebee has managed this engagement very well. It looked like a definite large chance for Bumblebee to get multiple kills, but not in this case. Pak 40 does kill the Sherman 5, or might do, sorry. It hasn't yet. Marder 3. That's going to be engaging the Streltsy here. Nebelwerfer 42 is coming in for the bottom side. Oh, if that gets a shot onto this Sherman 5, that could pin it. And the Marder 3 could find a kill there. That would be really nice. Pak 43 was brought in, but has found itself damaged. Focke-Wulf 190 going to be coming in for the strafing run. This Pak 40 is now pinned down and falling back. It does have houses to hide behind, so it should be okay. But the Pak 40 on the top side now has also gone down due to this Cromwell 6. And the infantry engagement is carrying on up there. So I think Herr Robert just sort of making ground across the entire map right now is really coming to a head, and honestly there's going to be little that Bumblebee can do about it. He's lost too many significant units at this point, and he's not won that air engagement. And yes, that air engagement was very, very hard to manage, but the fact that he didn't, and he's now, I guess, not necessarily lost it, he traded evenly, but now that the air engagement didn't fall in his favour, it's kind of left him in a bit of a tough spot. It's basically means that he can't use like a Ju-87, for example, to kill these, because one, there's AA, and also B, there's still Hurricanes. So the Ju-87s would likely get shot down anyway. Marder 3 is trying to pick off one of the Bofors, which I think is a really smart move here, but with the Cromwell 4 getting in range, that's going to snipe that Marder, and a very nice kill indeed. Pak 40 does kill another M3 command car. Honestly, these M3s, they have certainly been beaten up throughout this game. But at close range there, the Pak 40 going to be taken out, and that removes the last significant AT threat in the town. There is still the Pak 43 down in this hedgerow, but it's only on 1 health, so if it misses its first shot, it's basically dead. Sherman 5 is going to be looking for the engagement with the 232. There is some more recon on the way here, but I'm not entirely convinced that that's going to be enough to stop the tide of Shermans that are pushing his way. There's also a tide of infantry still on the top side doing work, and another infantry engagement ends with both the Mustang and the Focke-Wulf being forced to fall back. So the Cromwell 4 has actually just intercepted the 232 here. Takes it out. Spear Troop have been pinned down. One trouble with the Panzergrenadiers in the 17th SS is they have no Panzerfaust, so that's not even a threat to the Cromwell 4. Artillery is really doing a lot of work against the Nebelwerfer 42. I think it has been spotted. Maybe not. Maybe the Opel Blitz munition just gave it away. But either way, Nebelwerfer coming under fire. It also could be just due to Herr Robert remembering where it fired from previously onto this bottom side. But the Pak 43 there is going to come into the tree line, gets taken out. Jogoni now going to be revealing both the Panzergrenadiers and the Spear Troop. And well, with the Cromwell 4 in support, the Panzergrenadiers should go down very quickly indeed. There is an SDKM Z72 coming in on the bottom side and another Stoss Troop, but I'm not sure either, again, will be enough. The reinforcements that were brought in previously have already died, so it's just sort of throwing wood on the fire right now. It's not really working, and all of the units that he's bringing in are just quite simply dying. And Nebelwerfer fires away once again. Going to be trying to kill off this Stuart. Poor little Stuart. But the SPW 232 and the Stug 4 are forced back. And the 17 pounder did find a shot off there. Sherman 5 won't be able to move up until the Stoss Troop are dealt with, but honestly they can just be revealed by the rifles as they move forwards, and all the while it's now +3. Herr Robert definitely counting up the score very quickly right now. Focke-Wulf 190 being used to strafe Streltsy, probably not the best use, but probably wants to stop his Stoss Troop from being found there so that they present a threat against these tanks. But ideally you want to be finding kills at this point with your aircraft onto other aircraft rather than finding kills onto the ground so that you can bring in your Ju-87s, because those are the things that would make the difference. And in this case, without the AA, I think the Hurricane, oh, I was going to say kills the Focke-Wulf, but not quite. Panzerschreck does go down on the bottom side. You're going to take care of that. It's going to leave the door open to the Sherman 5 and the Cromwell 4. However, the Stosstroop here do still present a threat. The Focke-Wulf 190 is not going to shoot down the recon. The AA just too strong here from Herr Robert. And I love the way that he actually invested in that AA earlier than I thought he would. Mustang Mark III easily shoots down the Focke-Wulf 190 this time around. Yeah, often what will happen as the Polish is because they have so many Hurricane Mark IVs, they kind of neglect their AA, but it's always important to have AA to sort of support your own aircraft so that if you have an engagement over friendly territory, you do always win. And that's a very important thing to think about when you're using your own air force. Now on this top side, eventually the infantry here did get broken. There's only one Panzergrenadier left, and he is no threat to the Sherman 5 as it continues forwards. The Stosstroop are going to find a shot onto the command carrier, but the smoke is cleared, so they're going to come under a lot of fire very quickly. Takes them down to 2 men. Streltsy just want to push into that building surely, but Bumbleepotato has had enough, and after 27 minutes and 41 seconds, that is going to be victory for Herr Robert, and congratulations to him. He's going to be moving on to the lower bracket, round 4. Bumbleepotato going to be knocked out the tournament, unfortunately, but yeah, I really like that he identified he was against the 1st Pancerna and he brought in AA early. That's a mistake that a lot of players make, and it was just unfortunate that the mispositioning of his AA led to a lot of them dying, which then put him at a deficit, which made it extremely hard to come back from. Because if that AA was all still alive, those Hurricanes would have been useless, and then he would have had the points advantage against Herr Robert. So it's just one of those things. But either way, 2,500 kills to 1,025 losses is pretty significant in favour of Herr Robert, so fantastic job. In terms of the kills, the Cromwell 6 did an amazing job killing those AA pieces, killed the IG-18, Stosstroops, the Hurricanes, of course, strafing stuff to death. Also, the strafe onto the Nebelwerfer 41 was so important with that recon aircraft spotting it. That was just incredibly important, because if that Nebelwerfer had fired, it would have pinned down the Stuart and Cromwell that he had behind that tree line, and the Stug, before it got track wheel damage, would have been able to kill them. So, very smart move there to use the recon to spot the Nebels and then strafe them to death, especially after already dealing with the AA. The 140mm off-map did get a few kills here and there. Sherman 5 kills the IG-18 and the Stug 3. The 17-pounder killed the Marder 3. Mustang Mark III picked up 2 Focke-Wulf 190 A8s eventually. And then just the late game tanks did their job, the Shermans and so on. Didn't even need a Firefly in the end. In terms of losses, well, the Stug 3, it gave its best shot. I mean, that thing really had to pop off. Like I said, in Phase A, if he wanted to find any sort of advantage, it was on the back of this Stug 3. And considering the losses he'd already made, it was unlikely to happen. So he had it all the way into Phase B, which is fair enough. He just needed to make sure that he had the support there to engage tanks and so on. And maybe like assisting it with a Pak 40 directly might have been a nice idea. But then again, it was under fire from a 4.2-inch mortar. So maybe that wouldn't have worked after all. You never really know. I think Bumblebee, in the grand sense of things, he had the right idea. It just didn't quite have the execution. And that's kind of what made this matchup harder than it already was. Because the 1st Pancerna, in my opinion, should run over the 17th SS any day. And Herr Robert being on it certainly was on it today. So fantastic game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it anyway. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.